we've seen OGC miss the first ban for once. I think it's kind of like losing your passport in a foreign country. You only make that mistake once, you make sure to never do it again.
Well, they're going to make sure that Magneto is perma-banned, as are both of these teams. So no Meteor M's. Punish is going to be having a little bit more of a cushion of safety. EMEA is still a very, very strong Vanguard. However, a lot of teams, as we've already established, once their next section comes on through, pull out the final judgment to sink any of the momentum that the other teams are looking to grab off of the back of it. OGC now are going to be removing the Luna rather than another of the Vanguard lineup, before we get to go into seeing what they decide to save. Potentially a Vanguard of their own. They might want to have the Mirror Emma pick, and indeed, there it is. As All Business now get to go into the triple bans. Which role do they try and target remove?
It's whether they've been involving themselves in the same conversations that we've seen from the other teams, right? Luna Snow, I think a lot of their bans from the last week were fairly standard. I think for both sides, it was straightforward. I think it looked better for OG Seed when they're going up against a team that wasn't Shmongus. Mostly because Shmongus was, you know, the Venom, right? Why, Andrew? You're looking at other characters to be the main playmakers as opposed to what is the most effective tactic available, which is exactly what the meta is. So OG Seed, now that they're in more of a neutral environment, to say the least, you would expect that they're comfortable enough to deal with the draft that's put in front of them.
Yeah, OG Seed targeting the Loki and then saving the Cloak and Dagger. They might feel okay and confident letting the Psylocke through, but I do worry for them because they only have one ban slot left, and All Business get a save before that ban slot comes through. So Tuzi is instantly going to grab that Psylocke. This is the first time that Psylocke has been able to get through the ban system against All Business. OGC probably going to take the Captain America out now. Indeed, there it's going to go. But still, facing down Tuzi Psylocke is a very daunting process, as All Business in the past pulled maps against Virtus Pro, and the man who MVP'd it, the hero that he played, was Tuzi on the Psylocke.
Tuzi has been incredibly impressive. Just the amount of damage that he's able to put out. Like, typically you'd see if he's playing Psylocke and Slowpose over on the Punisher, that the Punisher would be doing maybe twice as much damage. Because a lot of it is just damage to tanks. I'm just going to get healed up. Tuzi's damage has to be very, like, dedicated. Make sure that it leads into an elimination. Yet Tuzi was still doing a lot of damage alongside the Punisher. He's getting a lot of out of it, and much like we put focus onto Crisis and L9 of putting resources into him, I do think that that's something that All Business do very well. These are players that haven't played that much in Marvel Rivals together. Like, I think the Season 1 Championship was the first major event. The previous ones, they sort of had top 32, top 64 finishes, but they have a lot of experience in the past, either playing against each other, playing with each other, just knowing each other from the scene because they're on different platforms. Well, now we're seeing a lot more Control players pop up, and All Business are the same. They're going to be able to use that kind of stuff, and that synergy really shows in every game that they play.
But something that we should point out, though, is that OG Seed are on the composition that Virtus Pro used to mitigate all forms of Psylocke threat. It's going to be the Atom with the Cloak and Dagger with the Mantis. This is the full Peel composition coming on through, as both of these strangers are going to use the portals, not to position immediately, but to get a read of the composition that we're up against, to have a better understanding of where they need to take the fight. Are we going to see an immediate jump onto that Cloak and Dagger? Out comes the Terror Cape, but it gets blocked by the Strange Shield. However, KQ for free dives right into All Business's entire team and pays the price for it.
Slowpose sedated, just able to sort of back up. It was All Business that got onto the objective first, as OG Seed holding onto the portal to just buy their time, as the objective wasn't going to be open for a good 10 seconds. But now it's just chipping away at these ultimates. 2-2-2 moving over towards the Venom, just sort of fighting up, pushing this backline now as Tuzi's found that opening in the backline. OG Seed crumbling under the weight of All Business now that they found those picks. It's going to be them taking the point first.
Yeah, OG Seed as well, losing this first fight and that TP fight as well is going to make it much harder for them to get on top of where this Punisher is going to be playing from. Plus, 2 might not have been able to go for the Captain America for the side of Welsh Mania, but can still play that Venom to give Tuzi the confidence to really commit into these fights. The Venom can go first, pull out those crucial cooldowns, and then your Psylocke, the thing that's actually going to be finding the pick, can follow up shortly after. In fact, we can see him already set up on the wall, waiting for that slam down. The Tether comes out. Dagger Dome's going to be able to keep everyone healed up, but it's the dance of the butterflies that you have to worry about. No picks off of the back of it, though. Good sleep into Solar Resurgence from 6. Forces all business into having to overcommit. They could have won that fight potentially with 2 ultimates, but instead they have to burn the entire ultimate bank, and they've got 1 left.
Resurrections bringing back some of the players, but it might just end up slowing down this reset for OGC. Like you pointed out, big ultimates all used at the same time for all business, from the vanguards, the duelists, and the strategists all together. So OGC having a lot, but 6 going down there just means that more time is going to be bought. Yeah, he's checking his watch. I'm not surprised, because OGC just letting, what, 10, 15, 20% go for free.
Yeah, Toot's gonna have Feast of the Abyss, but where's your damage boost? You don't have a Mantis, you don't have a Luna. OGC are going to be able to survive all the way through with that Eternal Bond coming on through. Business don't even have any other ultimate to overlap over the Feast of the Abyss. However, what they do have is pressure. Slowpoke is already off of the Punisher turret. Greedy sends in the Eternal Bond. It's going to be mirrored back with closest in this boundary. Hachiko comes through and catches onto 4 of them, and it doesn't matter that all business didn't have the ultimates because they're just falling apart.
It was the invisible boundary set up from closer to hold all business to accounts, but OG Seed, the most impressive fact is it was just the Eye of Agamotto that seemed to follow through, and the Eternal Bond for Greedy Nils almost not even worth mentioning because of how quickly these ultimates can be farmed up. You've got the Karmic Revival for that extra little bit of security, Psionic Survival, and the Dance of the Butterflies to be proactive, and it has to be that from OG Seed. 99% on the board for all business.
At least Greedy doesn't have that Eternal Bond yet again. Down to the Butterflies from KQ. Psionic Seduction comes out at the same time too from OGC, trying to punish the fact that they had to stack those players into that Psylocke ultimate to stop it having value. And unfortunately, that's done just the ticket. All business lose so many of their players, and OGC win another fight in a row.
That's 2 to 2 using the ultimate, switching over to the Doctor Strange now. Not needed to be a contest with the portal just yet. 44% on it for OG Seed, so it's a good fight. Using up some of those bigger ultimates and not really close to having any others come online other than the Karmic Revival.
All business. They've got the Eternal Bond. They've got the Final Judgment. We've seen teams have to invest both to guarantee that the Punisher survives the duration of the ultimate. Still, though, all business not opening things up just yet. It's going to be a Psylocke versus Psylocke for one. Psylocke's got the EMEA team up, and KQ is able to come out on top. Out comes the Final Judgment, emboldened by the Eternal Bond, but OG Seed are more than happy to trade 2 ultimates for the price of 1. Karmic Revival behind the point, and they've been able to bring all of those players back.
Now it's overtime. It's not even going to be progressing forward for OGC. They have to take it back, which is looking likely at this rate. You got KQ with the Dance of the Butterflies, not wanting to use it in this engagement. Really nothing's been made towards it, but all business almost taking this first point and making it theirs. KQ trying to keep the resets happening on the other side this time, and all business wanted to try and peel through. The Slowpoke is the ultimate that seemed to make the most difference. He's not going to have it for this next and potential final fight. The portal from 2 to 2 coming in. Hachiko does have the Eye of Agamotto, hiding it feels like to try and catch them out.
Yeah, they don't know where the Strange is. They've got to go for a teleport play to try and just take down closer before that invis boundary can potentially come on through. Out comes all business. It's 4. Agamotto, he gets 4 yet again. Tuzi's able to find Lapis. Where's the follow-up damage off of the Eye? It's not there in time. All business come through with an Eye of Agamotto of their own. 6 with the Resurgence is trying to keep everybody up through it. KQ, intangible, but still coming on out with the tangible damages off of the back of that Dance of the Butterflies. All business trying to have the later support ultimate coming on through so that they can have the long-term sustainability, and that's been able to win them the fight. Eternal Bond paired up with Tuzi's ultimate, and OG Seed are going to have to rush Greedy onto the Strange and try and set up a teleport just to be able to touch.
Well, there's going to be able to, though. It's back and forth, this fight, but 2-2 finds the pick straight away over onto the Adam Warlock. Greedy nails a shield, dropped pretty much instantly. Hachiko on the Captain America, put down yet again from this Venom, who has been able to get these eliminations, chop things up nicely, but it's Tuzi that's the one that's absolutely shredding through the first seed. And the first point for OG, all business. Had it to begin with, lost it, brought it to 99%, and was able to take it back, which mentally, physically, exhausting for OGC to have to deal with.
No matter who takes this first map, I see in the future of map number 2 a Psylocke target ban even after that Lina Snow's been taken off. Because Tuzi on this Psylocke 20-3 right now. The numbers that Tuzi is outputting, it's just insane. OG Seed is even on a composition that is tailor-made to survive the Psylocke hit dive coming on through, but he's still finding the value when his team needs him to.
Yeah, today's given a couple of fireworks. I love all of these shots. I love the Krakoa and Arako just have so many like little cute little tidbits especially. But for OG Seed, considering this is pretty much the garden of all gardens that you're playing in, things growing in some places, dying in others, really. It's the only way to sort of put it. For all business, they've set themselves up nicely, and Slowpo having the final judgment, it's a scary, precarious thing that OG Seed need to be very careful of.
Yeah, Watchmania is going to be able to power it up too with a lovely Psionic Seduction. KQ43 is going to go all the way around the back, trying to scatter these positions where all business are going to be setting on up. They need to know where the Punisher is so they can disengage cleanly. If Veil of Light Force comes on through from all business, they can just keep that forward position. Out comes the Dance of the Butterflies from Tuzi. They saw that OGC were a little bit too reluctant to face the Punisher.
Oh my god.
And all get trapped into the open space against the Dance of the Butterflies. No final judgment, but that definitely has an air of finality as Tuzi's ultimate closes out the fight.
Yeah, I felt that the final judgment was almost security. Use the Psionic Seduction, Dance the Butterfly together, force out some big support ultimates or big cooldowns like the Soul Bond. That's when the final judgment can come through, but it wasn't needed. All business, the big ultimates are online, they're set up nicely and they're cycling them to perfection. OG Seed, not really much progression made on the point for all business at this point, but they want to make these ultimates work, gain some tempo. They have enough to work with, all 6 ultimates.
KQ43 hasn't got the LOS for the Mantis damage boost. Soul Resurgence comes out instead. Eye of Agamotto from 2 catches 3 of them. The Mantis heal just isn't enough. Slowpo with the final judgment is entirely untouchable, safe inside the invis boundary. And OG Seed, their presence is entirely invisible on this point right now. They haven't been able to find a single in, and unfortunately for them too, it's going to come at the cost of another late stagger pick. The body block, they take the Atom down before Lapis can find the map edge, and all business are trying to hit final fight territory.
Well, Tuzi's not gone down. He's gone from 23 to 3 to 29 and 3. 17 final hits, but Slowpoke, that duelist combination is horrendously terrifying for anybody to be dealing with, and really they're able to shine because of the support and the resources poured into them. Now you've got this sort of high ground play. We saw Canute play a bunch of these sort of positions before over on the side of Zero Tenacity, and Slowpoke's just for free. It looks for free that he's able to put this damage in. The Eye of Agamotto from Hachiko not catching on to the 4K that he's usually consistently able to grab. It's only the 1. Unfortunately, it's not really amounted to all too much. KQ trying to make sure that the turret from the Punisher from Slowpo isn't going to really catch that much free terrain. And the fight is finally going away with OGC, but much like the first point, Moxie, it's a 99% for all business.
Yeah,
they're not even able to get it.
Yeah, Tuzi's still up. It's a Psylocke 1v1. Tuzi's gonna fall. It was a 2 versus 1 as Sixel was there to help out with the inspiration. But all business, 99%. They've got final judgment. They're going to have invis boundary, and they're just going to go straight for a teleport play before OG Seed can build up the ultimates to stop them. Strange teleports right above the air. Slowpoke gets the absolute wonderful angle with this Punisher turret to just catch onto all of these players from OG Seed as they have no choice but to throw themselves onto point or it flips over.
Magmoto dropping in again, the 4K, and their follow-up is exactly there from the Maelstrom, from the Final Judgment. Psionic Seduction going to be used on the other side, but it's not silencing anything. Those guns are still going burr over on the side from Slowpo, and All Business cleaning up this first map in a nice straightforward 2-0 fashion. OGC not able to get anything on the board on the carousel.
All Business are one of the best teams at identifying the win conditions, especially when their win condition is the duelist. They will go above and beyond to make sure that their duelists have the resources necessary. And they have such a good understanding of the situations when those resources are called for it as well. Tuz is going to be walking with an MVP. That's a very familiar screen that we've been seeing when All Business have been in the driver's seat. 37-4. Insane performance coming on through from him. 52% accuracy on that Psylocke as well. Slowpo 30-4 as well. Both of the duelists only taken down 4 times thanks to such wonderful pocketing coming on through from Zenost, and also closer. Like a lot of the time when we even saw Slowpo with the Punisher turret just all the way away up on that high perch tower, he finally gets pressured as KQ on the Psylocke detaches himself from the fight, go to try and hunt the Punisher down, doesn't manage to find the pick because Closer just comes on through with the force physics and bats him away before he can.
I mean, we speak about like the duelist needing resources. That is a fine example of one, really. And at this point, like OGC, it felt like they were going to be able to take this first point if it wasn't for Tuzi just cleaning everybody up like it was nothing. It wasn't really, you know, he got eliminations off the back of his like Dance of the Butterfly, sure, but a lot of it was just his like left click. It was just a lot of like these fights and clean engagements. KQ's had a fair few, as you're seeing, but as this map and first point went on, it really did feel like Tuzi just completely took over.
Yeah, Slowpo as well. These final judgments. OGC didn't have the Punisher. They didn't have the damage wherewithal to stand up to what All Business could do. And it's so strange as well that we didn't really see that Punisher come through for them because they had the Mantis. If they'd wanted to, they could actually have won the Punisher 1v1. They would have had more potential pocket plays with the damage boost option. But instead, we see them like try and play around the dive coming on through. They've got the Adam to act as that solo duelist, potentially out-sustain All Business's side. But the thing about All Business is that they position perfectly for the first stage of the fight and the second stage of the fight. A lot of the time when they knew that things like the Dance of the Butterflies would be up on the side of the enemy, they would have everyone stacked in Eternal Bond except Slowpo, who at the beginning of that fight, before it even began, would have ziplined to a different position, and he would have been up on the Punisher turret to make sure that he was just continuing to chunk those shots and stop anyone from picking up any form of space. We'll have to wait and see whether or not they can answer back, or if it's just going to be a full shutdown after this short break.
So we have two teams that came in invited to EMEA Ignite playing here for a chance of making playoffs. Those that win will continue on in the tournament. Those that lose are going to have to come back and fight their way back in next time. So for OGC, there's a lot of pressure, right? Like, you're invited, you're almost seen as the seedling team. That's why it's called OGC, the Academy squad. Young players that have a lot of promise, wanted to make use of the opportunity of being invited here. All Business, a really good showing in the championship with a third place finish and even taking a map off of Virtus Pro way back when, I believe, showing that they're not just a flash in the pan, that they deserve to be at the top end of EMEA, despite the fact that we haven't really seen that much of them since, right?
Yeah, showing as well why you banned Tuzi Psylocke. Even though Luna was out of rotation because of the advanced pick and ban system coming on through from OGC, Tuzi showed why you still fear the Psylocke even without that strategist pocket. And if you're trying to put all of your resources into dealing with the Psylocke, that immediately clears the way for Slowpo on the Punisher to get whatever he wants done. Those two duelists work very well together in that vein. It's also another reason why Storm and Punisher tends to be a package parcel deal that we tend to see coming on through in terms of duelist lineup as well. So headed into this, I'm really hoping that the instant adaptation coming on through from OG's side is removing both the Luna and the Psylocke.
All of Dejalia, the choice of map for OG Seed, attacking side 2. As both teams leading the line with a Magneto. This is not where we would expect a Psylocke ban to be coming in, but it does feel like, you mentioned it before, right? Like every other team has respected 2Z's Psylocke enough to take it out. OG Seed, if they've done their research, which I know that they have, you would assume that either they're gonna ban it out or they have a plan for it. And if they have a plan for it, well, I haven't quite seen it come to fruition and executed well yet.
Yeah, I mean, we saw from Virtus Pro earlier that the Atom, Mantis, and Cloak and Dagger can shut down the Psylocke, but there was a lot of coordination involved in doing that, and there it is. Already I can see it in the portrait. OG Seed removed the Psylocke from play. The Atom, the Mantis, the Cloak and Dagger that they'd obviously probably prepared for in anticipation of the Psylocke was proven to be not enough, and they don't want to risk it again.
Ooh, and they get Loki instead, do all business. Comfortable for closer. So what ultimates you're going to want to be able to copy? And well, Cloak and Dagger has been involved in this series thus far, but not necessarily in the draft, not following, you know, the talking point of the day, the hot topic. Invisible Woman grabbed up for OG Seed. Any particular standout other than to just deal with some of the dive that might be happening?
2Z.
Whatever 2Z's gonna play.
Get to play Psylocke, he's gonna be on the torch more than likely. So you remove the Invis Woman from being able to give any potential flyer Guardian Shield.
More stuff. You don't have the Magneto for the shields. You don't have the... Yeah, I mean, everything that is involved in this draft, even though some of it is very common, is don't give LeBron the ball, essentially, isn't it? Like, don't let 2Z have any form of sustenance, any damage boost, any mitigation. And for OG Seed, they don't want to give them Wolverine either. So, draft's looking standards, if not still a little bit scary for OG Seed, because 2Z, you know what he's going to play. You just don't know what you could do against it.
Yeah, 2Z has so many different characters. As all business, it looks like they wanted to remove the Wolverine because they wanted to put Toot on the Groot. So that we have the Groot and the lineup coming on through with the Loki and Cloak and Dagger strategist backline. In the meantime, OG Seed are going to have access to the Punisher alongside the Storm, just like their opponents. But they did ban out that Invis Woman on the other side, so that flyer is going to have a little bit more value in terms of resources, although I feel like the Guardian Shield is much going to be focused on that Punisher over Aurora.
Really looking a lot at... Really, whilst 2Z is going to sort of take the limelight with some of the stuff he's able to do, Slowpoke was also incredibly impressive. And now, it's been able to deal with them. There's a lot of synergy that's been able to play with his team. The real weakness of all business is just the amount of time they are able to practice. But it might not matter. A top 8 finish might be able to put a bit more time, maybe even a couple of resignations in for the real jobs if other opportunities are available. But OG Seeds, their choice of map, their side, they're going to be attacking the halls of Jajalia. Their last chance, potentially, to be making a good finish in EMEA.
Teleport play, however, all business with that Loki have the regeneration domain to instantly react to it. Not if the Loki gets taken down before we can hit shift, though. That is panic button for all business. In fact, they just have to full withdraw from this fight to make sure that no other picks come on through for this defense, which would allow OG Seed to start running away with ultimate charge as well as point percentage.
A lot of damage being done from KQ, who definitely had the bright moments, was the solo duelist in the last map. Gonna have at least a bit more support from 6, but that objective is moving along. Portal play not quite working for all business, switching away from it, just having to back out of this fight, and OG Seed smelling blood in the water, honestly, able to keep things swimming along, and they've taken so much space on this second point.
Yeah, not so much swimming, so much soaring, as this Storm with the damage boost for KQ on that Goddess boost aura has been absolutely huge. Suzy on the Punisher is going to have to try and break Hachiko's Striding Shield to oust him from his high ground position. And once they've cleared that, then they can move over to taking this fight over onto point. Toot's going to fall though, Force Physics, a cruel cooldown against the group player. Omega Hurricane even being invested out into the Invis boundary. They're able to catch the Storm as well as bleed out Closer's Eternal Bond. The OG Seed are going to be down that Punisher, and all business now coming as the later Omega Hurricane.
These Omega Hurricanes trying to carve their way through the lines of players, but it's almost the trades coming in onto the either side. The final judgment coming through, at least from 2Z, is going to allow All Business to regain control of the objective, force OGC back as well. The eliminations are still coming in. It's a little bit chaotic. They're just trying to jump into like a deer in the headlights, just try to reset as fast as possible. They have some good ultimates to work with. They have fed a good amount of charge to All Business on this defense.
Yeah, Psionic Seduction for Mania is not going to find the value that it's looking for. Neither a Strangling Prison, as KQ's final judgment is going to be CC immune to both of them. So it can be used in case All Business try and kick things off first. 2Z is the one that has to try and buy up time for Xenos and closer to hit the cooldowns to survive the test of Final Judgment will put this defense under. Final Judgment comes now from KQ, Strangling Prison from 2, catches a majority of OGC's players, but there's just no confidence in the face of Final Judgment. They have to fall back. The regeneration domain has bought them the seconds to do so. The Final Judgment's done.
Agamotto diving on in, catches free. There's been a lot of really nice connections from the main vanguards on both sides. OG Seed winning a clean fight, but doing it in such a nice position. And this second objective going to be taken with a good amount of time on the board. 5 minutes just shy of for OG Seed to push this payload all the way to the end.
True, but All Business are in a much better cycle of ultimates right now. 2Z and Closer are both going to be hitting Daz at the exact same time, so too is the Gnosts. And that should give the defense a means of just immediately stamping out any momentum that OG Seed are looking to pick up. Mega Hurricane from 6 is potentially going to get chunked down by the Final Judgment. Can they find the pick onto that Storm in time? No, they cannot. KQ goes down though, able to take down the Punisher, then the Storm. The Final Judgment still tearing through the players of OGC Aid, and 2Z's Final Judgment once again slows the approach of the attack.
He's been the hero of All Business's story so far. OG looking good in a lot of these fights, but then suddenly 2Z shows up and has that shining play. Slowpo, another Omega Hurricane looking to cut through Znost with the God of Mischief, able to sit on some security plays whilst Closar builds up another one of those big Cloak and Dagger ultimates. The fight is going to be used on the other side, and just as we do see the Eternal Bond used on the attacking seeds of OG, it is just immediately taken down on the other end. There's enough pressure to push on through, and just past the middle point of this third objective, the Portal looking to try to catch off and stop All Business from actually contesting this.
Yeah, they might be able to get around it. There are a couple of different ways that you can enter that high ground on the left, but what it has been able to do is funnel them into that position, which is going to feed them right into KQ. Waiting on that Punisher turret, the EMEA has to be the one that goes forward, and unfortunately it's not to be. They walk directly into the Psionic Seduction. Slowpo tries to cut off the backline with the Omega Hurricane, remove the resources, remove the healing.
Wow.
Maybe OG Seed's frontline gets removed alongside it, but it's not enough.
Time to switch things up.
And OG full push.
I feel like my northernness is going to come out, but that ending bit from OG Seed was bloody lovely. Like, honestly, like the portal play to block off the two other entrances and then setting up the turret on top of the payload to just burst down the other entrance where All Business are trying to come from. It's nice to see that, like, I feel like in the first game that they had against Schmungers, they were in over their heads. They kind of lost their composure. But here, a map down, it's all backed up against you, but they're able to still commit to some really nice, like, set plays almost in a very chaotic, fluid kind of game. All Business very much on the back foot. It's going to be hard to not only get to the end of the map, but to match them time-wise with about 3 minutes still left on the clock.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be, is it gonna be a portal pickup of A, or is it potentially a full hold? That is the question that Holo de Jalia holds for a lot of these teams. It is incredibly defensively favored in terms of the angles that the attacker side have to walk up and approach into, all of that poke. And when you're up against a Punisher, when you're up against a Storm, the incoming spam damage is absolutely insane. So a lot of these teams mitigate it purely by just teleporting behind and onto the high ground to just push the defense off of it. This time around, All Business should be able to use the regeneration domain if they decide to go for a teleport play into OGC's back line. Snoss will be able to place the doppelgangers and hit that regeneration domain, but it looks like it's not actually going to be a teleport that All Business decide to take. Instead, they walk around manually all the way up the left. OGC should break that bridge now to deny All Business from being able to have that high ground to match them, and we have a joust. Both Punishers on their turrets trying to break through any shield that they can.
Yeah, just fighting from distance, really. Portal wanted to be held on to for All Business. And it's more about like which one's going to drop down to low ground first. Well, actually, one player's going to be knocked down to fight up against Hachiko over on OGC. We do see the Eternal Bond used on one side. Tuzi's not the one that's going to be using the final judgment. It's KQ. But with all of that support, that healing and the bodies, the progression has been made for All Business. OGC having to just dump into the muck and the mud to try and contest. And thankfully, they're taking these fights. They're getting the engagements and winning them. It wasn't even off the back of ultimates. There's a lot of ultimates dedicated from All Business that haven't really amounted to all too much up until then. Slowpoke comes in with the 2K and the Omega Hurricane trying to fight off anybody else from OGC that's holding on to this objective.
They might be able to take the Emma down before the regroup can come on through. Abu manages to take the Storm out of the mix. Remember, All Business also didn't open up this fight with that teleporter, so if they want to recontest quickly in, they will be able to. Two with the Strange Shield blocks off the Emma LOS so that the heals get prevented. However, she is able to dive back towards her strategist and still fully get healed to come and prove the Psionic Seduction. Both of these Emmas mirroring the ultimate Welsh Mania, pushing aggressively onto both of the strategists, huddled up safely in Garage as Slowpoke comes on through. Not able to find the Omega Hurricane. Six with the Goddess Boost tries to find the pick. Final Judgment into Eye of Agamotto, but where's the follow-up? Hachiko was able to at least stun out the Loki, but the damage is not there.
What a long fight for OGC to try and hold on for All Business. Slowpoke especially finding a lot of the eliminations to at least get into the green to get things moving. OGC, though, you're not going to be too upset. You've fought a good amount of time, more so than the opponents did at that stage of the map. But it's about making sure that this doesn't snowball into something uncontrollable.
Abuhu gets so much pressure on this Emma from that Punisher turret on the payload. However, the strategists are able to keep them healed up and also convert it into Ultimate Charge Lapis off of the back of that. Has him Viz Boundary. Final Judgment gets held. Eye of Agamotto comes on through from 2, catches so many players. 4 from OGC, and 4 will fall off of all of that follow-up damage. All Business don't even need to use an aggressive ultimate. It's just Eye of Agamotto, Maelstrom, Zanos with the God of Mischief copying the Eternal Bomb to make sure that there's no punishment for them overstepping their bounds.
AQ lead in the line with damage, but honestly, looking at the numbers, damage numbers seem about even. It's just about where that damage is dedicated and if it's enough to actually take somebody down to 0 HP. Now, however, it was pretty much even on times for All Business and OGC getting to this third objective. Now it's about getting it over the line in the next 90 seconds for All Business if you want to be trying to set a better time. Omega Hurricane for Slowpoke available for the third, fourth time, even potentially over on this defense, and just cutting down some of this mitigation. The damage boost going to be coming in with a final judgment from Tuzi, and it just carves through stuff. Hachiko coming in with the Eye of Agamotto. It's not going to matter all that much. Even Eternal Bond isn't putting a dent into this damage.
All Business, the coordination is just on point. OGC try to commit, they try to answer back, they mirror the Final Judgment, they mirror the Eternal Bomb, but All Business just coordinate seamlessly. Everyone jumping around the corner at the moment that Slowpoke hits Goddess Boost. Tuzi comes through with the Final Judgment, and just the way we saw OGC barreling through C with a Punisher turret setup, it is going to get broken. Psionic Seduction comes through from Welsh Mania. Slowpoke trying to play with Omega Hurricane in case they all get run out of that Invis boundary. They might be able to get the damage through off of the back of that Eye of Agamotto that Toot's able to provide into the fight. And All Business find an all wipe. OGC do not have the place to recontest. This is going to be All Business being able to walk away a full push 3 minutes 21 to 2 minutes 59.
Because you have experience coaching and analyzing, being an analyst for teams, Moxie, what are like the maps that tend to finish out the most that you actually are able to complete consistently?
Not this one.
Not this one. That's good to know.
Not this one. It is incredibly rare that the whole of Dejalia sees anything over a 2-minute time bank. Incredibly rare. Because that means that you have to have captured A pretty much off of first fight, either a teleport play, or you manage to take the high ground angle by walking full side left and win out the brawl, and then you never get stopped on B. If you ever get stopped a single time on B, especially if there's any flying component in your composition, you're looking at least a minute. A minute minimum out of, and then this applies to C. If you lose a single fight on C, the defenders just get so aggressive and push to that first corner that you're forced into using ultimates in that fight. Then you've got the fight in the wider hall, and then you've got the fight on the last contest as well. It's absolutely insane that we're seeing both teams have around 3 minutes in the bank.
It's actually some of the time it's been shaved off. I've seen that before. Just like for OG Seed, just 2 minutes to work with, but still, it's pretty even. Only 20 seconds difference. You had such a good showing on that first point, but when it comes to any other players, the portal gaining information, seeing that OG Seed taking a leaf out of All Business's book, not wanting to use the portal play straight away, but they're gonna get jumped on by one that's nicely set up by All Business.
Yeah, so All Business were actually setting up not just to scout, but they wanted to see if OG Seed went for a teleport play from spawn. 2Z would get the angle above with the Punisher turret and potentially take the Strange down when that Strange portal was being cast. As it is going to be a brawl for brawl, OG Seed's Hachiko going lower and lower and lower. As unfortunately, OG Seed prioritizing just walking to the point as quickly as possible means that they have diminishing returns in terms of space that they control. And All Business, they're losing some of those health bars. However, Greedy gets to come on through. The players being stacked up. Eternal Bond builds faster than the side of that defense, and now they can establish themselves, anchor themselves on that point with that Strange trying to push 2Z out before Final Judgment can come through.
Ooh, KQ's found a nice couple of eliminations before this full player has come out. There's not going to be enough. 1 minute left on the clock. OG Seed saving the portal. Not really needing it, actually. They were able to just win out the fight in the end. It was looking like it was going All Business's way, but Hachiko has been taking some really nice fights and making sure, for the most part, that 2Z can't get that free reign that he wanted there with the Final Judgment.
Yeah, Greedy as well, being able to come through that Eternal Bond. Like, OG Seed play with fire. There's no torch in the lobby, but if anyone from OG Seed goes down when they have that little space, it all falls apart. They were banking on the Cloak and Dagger building the ultimate first, and that's exactly what they're able to achieve. The Slope and I, good ass boost. All Business dig their heels into the ground, refuse to give any form of space. Might, however, be a decision made for them. AQ comes through with the Final Judgment, and All Business make themselves very scarce indeed.
You weren't kidding with just not wanting to get stuck here. You could tell OG Seed throwing a lot of big ultimates to know that every inch is going to be important here. Now that they're in overtime, keeping things pushed back, it's going to be purely overtime now. No extra sort of time going to be given. 2-2 just waiting on this angle, looking for a good fight here. Both of the Doctor Strangers having the Eye of Agamotto, and both of them have been exceptional at connecting them.
Hachiko's just waiting for someone to extend to that low ground. Out comes Psionic Seduction, out goes the Eye of Agamotto to remove any form of follow-up. Regeneration Domain gets invested, surviving the Omega Hurricane forecast coming on through from the side of 6, and the triple Lokis will be able to work together and take down the Storm. Slowpo is still making sure that OGC don't gain more ground though. The Storm has to be pushed out before the payload can move on. As like you said, it being overtime, even though OGC were able to get past that second checkpoint, the time bank does not gain more ground, and All Business just have to win one singular fight with a Final Judgment and Eternal Bond to pocket it. It definitely feels like they should win the next.
Momentum's the name of the game, not only when it comes to progression, but also just the mantra to keep these players talking, to keep them in this one that mapped down OG Seed. Really breaking the limits and stopping All Business from having to try and match this. It's looking like this is going to be the end of the road for OG Seed's attacking side, but with only 2 and a bit minutes for All Business, that feels like it's going to be a real Herculean task to try and match.
They did pick up A incredibly quickly. But it's such a huge risk is why we saw OGC just not want to go for the teleport play at the beginning, because if you use your teleport to aggressively take that high ground and you don't win the fight,
we'll have it
that
for the
teleport
contest.
is not going to come back for the contest time. Exactly. So it's feast or famine, go big, go home. If you try and throw your eggs into the basket of an early TP play, that is the hill that you might find yourself falling on.
You say go big, go home. Could be going home for OG if they ain't able to pick up this map. All business on well, not tournament point. This isn't the grand finals. The grand finals of Ignite. If it's these two teams, I would be shocked. But
30 seconds
at the very
before you
least, they're
attack.
both
Get ready.
promising prospects. All business just trying to show a little bit more that they are more than just a third place finish in championship for OG Seed. That they are a team to be honestly respected at the top level, and that is a good attacking side. They held on that first point a little bit longer than All Business did in that first go around on this defense. It really does feel about how you take these fights. Once we get towards the end here, you might see a lot of overextensions, a little bit of brashness, I suppose, of trying to put this game to bed as soon as possible. All Business, they have a lot of experience in other games. Have to take it into Marvel Rivals here.
Well, a lot of experience, not a lot of time. No TP either. They are going to go just like OGC, mirroring all the way around the back. Now, it's a race. Who hits Eternal Bond first? OG Seed actually send their Strange player up to take that high ground to make sure that they don't get grabbed out by Force Physics coming through from Invis boundary. And All Business now being pushed off of that high ground have far less space to be able to stack up around this corner. Dagger Dome comes on through, Closer 64%, Greedy also 61%, but it feels like All Business are going to be able to get that ultimate online first. And OGC are already positioning in anticipation of an Eternal Bomb dashing into that back line. Both of the cloaks burn the ultimate. Who has the damage to punch through?
AQ's traded it up to be a 5v5. Omega Hurricane's going to be mirrored up as well. So, yeah, you're getting a real experience over on this point as OGC are just putting as much on their bodies as they can to stop this from progressing. Eye of Agamotto not looking to connect onto anything, but Toot to Toot going to be using it on that side. Hachiko jumping in, does have the Eye of Agamotto himself, and he's going to just drop himself in. Again, not catching anything as these ultimates traded at either side. Now, however, All Business having the picks in order to find some space, and Tuesday with the final judgment, the firepower to take control and get things moving with 50 seconds.
It was a huge dark teleportation coming through from Closer. That Eye of Agamotto could have been the one thing that finished All Business's attack, but no. And Tuesday gets to come back from the respawn point, having gone down early in the fight prior, Silver Lining. He's got the final judgment, and he's got enough players to be able to pocket him through it. OG Seed, though, have a final judgment of their own, and now All Business are going to have to find a way of preventing it from finding the picks. 20 seconds left. They cannot afford to get pushed off of this payload. They do not have the time bank to fully regroup. They need to go first. They need to shut KQ down before final judgment can come on through. Psionic Seduction opens things up. OG side just waiting. They know that they just have to wait it out before coming back in with final judgment off of an Eternal Bond, and All Business is going to be up to their strategists to keep themselves alive.
Oh, All Business, I think, stacked their support ultimates. So that's one thing with overtime here. It is just one fight that OGC need, and the Boohoo's found two. Eye of Agamotto stunning stuff out for All Business. They need to make more progression on the point to keep themselves at least a 2-0. KQ has been finding so much value, and All Business now brought down to free fighting on the objective. Doing a really good job at stalling, but there's too many seeds in this garden, and they've pulled themselves a nice ripe third map to play on.
We go the distance. We go the distance, and I feel like the pick ban system is probably not going to be changing up in the slightest. This is such a close series too. Like, both of these teams have very similar play styles in terms of just pocketing. Pocket your duelist. Your duelist will win you the fight. It's all about making sure that you're having maximum value when those duelist ultimates are going on off. And it's these small little plays, the differences between Greedy and Closer being able to hit their Eternal Bond first to better give their team space to properly take that fight, that's going to be the real difference maker.
Support's outputting a lot of healing, Greedy Nils, especially Lapsi Sotilas as well. Like, I haven't mentioned him mostly because I'm scared of the name. It's the first time I mentioned it, but it's the support backline, I think, for OGC that has really held the line nicely in some of those engagements. And for all business, at the very least, you get the choice and side pick of the next map, so there's some advantage of being able to pick up the first domination game that we saw in his best of 3. But it's a scary predicament to be put in for both sides now. All of the stress to go in onto this final map of whether you're making playoffs or not. And for all business, it's really been good showings. It just felt that that one, Tuzi, didn't get the same level of freedom as he got on Krakoa.
Yeah, Hachiko as well on this Doctor Strange was able to really take advantage of all business having to hide from Duelist Ultimates coming on through. Like, we got to see just that before the point went into B. He's able to catch both of the strategists around the corner because they were busy running, trying to utilize that natural cover to hide from Final Judgment, and that led into them being stacked into Free Eye of Agamotto. Even here in these moments, we were getting to see Hachiko with the Doctor Strange, with that just threat of the Eye of Agamotto forcing all business's hands in terms of, okay, we've got to divert resources away from Tuzi to making sure that we are actually alive to heal him when the time comes for Final Judgment to be pulled on out. OG Seed in the meantime are doing a very good job of just splitting their resources. 6-2 on this Storm has been so good at setting up the Omega Hurricanes to put pressure onto all business's backline. Like, Zenost on this Loki had the better sustain in terms of just regeneration domain. That was another entire defensive cooldown that everyone on the side of OG Seed had to be able to pressure on out because it's just pumping out so much healing prowess. But the Omega Hurricanes were doing such a good job of just removing the Loki doppelgangers that we never really got to see the Loki find the value.
Especially when you're like saving as well in the draft, like that's going to be the key thing. Fine margins that are separating both of these two teams. We'll be seeing exactly where that third map is going to take us. We knew that these games were going to be close, but for OG Seed and all business, it's going to go that extra mile. So we're going to go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll see where this best of 3 takes us. Or not. Playoffs is on the line. We've already seen a couple of these best of 3s go the distance. It's only Virtus.pro that have made pretty quick work of theirs. But here, Moxie, it is the choice of all business to be able to sort of take this one over the line on a full payload map. So realistically, what are your chances when you're looking at these two teams? Because OG Seed really bounced back in that one, I think, when it came to some individual performances.
Yeah, I definitely bounced back. One of the major factors in being able to give them that bounce back ability was the pick and ban system. They did much better in that second round, as we pointed out. Taking the Psylocke out of the mix, I definitely foresee that sticking around as a ban coming on through. As for the side of all business, like Tuzi can play a bunch of different heroes, but his Psylocke is his primary and his source of comfort too. Plus, having the Psylocke being removed allowed suddenly Six to go and play the Storm, because Flyers don't have a fun time into Psylocke at all. So getting to see as well the fact that the Loki is really good for the Punisher, but it works against your Storm significantly in regards to the comparison of the Invis Woman, where you're using the Guardian Shield and you can just put that in front of your Flyer and call it a day in terms of the healing that you can do, plus the primary being able to pierce. If players are stacked up, boom, you're building Invis Boundary at a skyrocket pace in comparison to All Business, who really prized having that Loki. The way that we saw everyone utilizing Regeneration Domain in map number 1 of game number 1, where the Loki came in and absolutely just cushioned the Final Judgment from the Punisher.
Yggdrasil's path is going to be the end of the road for one of these two teams in stage 1. And the vetoes, I feel like for OG Seed, you found the answer with the Psylocke ban, but is there an adjustment that All Business can make here? What seems to be the natural, like, almost chess moves to make of like, okay, you're going to dedicate one of your 4 bans towards this character. We're going to do this to punish you.
I feel like you have to save the Cloak and Dagger is the problem for All Business. they have to save the cloak and dagger, which does open up them not being able to have things like the Doctor, not the Doctor Strange, the Captain America. As, oh, wait a minute. They don't save the cloak and dagger. Oh, that's going to get insta-banned out right now then.
I mean, it should be. I mean, isn't
maybe
this...
Maybe they go invis. No, they go invis because of Tuesday Torch. So, all business is still going to get a premier strategist.
I mean, I guess it's sort of like you're boxed into a corner for OG Seed there, because it did feel like you had that kind of advantage, and maybe if they end up losing this map and this series, that's something that you look back on and go, should we? But ultimately, it worked last time. You managed to really quieten down how effective Tuesday was, and the Loki, like you were mentioning, did feel like it got too much advantage. However, the fact that all business have been able to ban it out at the end, that's an advantage in itself, no?
Yeah, and it's gonna be a cloak and dagger as well coming on for their side too. So even though you don't have the invis to have guardian shields for your torch, you are still going to have good heals on your flyers. The one major thing about cloak and dagger is that her primary locks on. So you don't have to worry about flyers strafing around the pack, and we might actually even see all business commit this duo squad to flank around the back of the Ultron and the Torch, where the Torch gets the imperative patch, which is then going to give the AoE heal to both the Ultron and the Torch, and you can try and break around that first corner of Yggdrasil. Very pesky for attackers, to the point that a lot of attacking teams now actually do come up with a composition that you use purely for that first fight, so that you can either find the pick or provide enough of a threat that the defenders are forced to say, hold on a minute, we can't take this fight, and just take a major step backwards.
Really feels that it has been trying to get LeBron the ball with 2Z, and Slowpo is going to be able to try and do something adjacent to that for the most part. But triple support for all businesses defense side that they chose, so GC bringing things to an even series, and even actually trying to manage it as well. We see the double Ultron flying in the sky.
Yeah, it's going to be greedy on the Mantis, trying to match wits with closer on the Cloak and Dagger. 12% Mantis inspiration, but put out much more frequently in comparison to the 12-second cooldown that is closest. 28% vulnerability. 2Z on the Torch, breaking that Strange Shield, making sure that OG Seed cannot remove the high ground angle that this Torch is able to play around with. As that Pyro Prison is putting significant pressure on the backline of OG Seed's players.
Oh, they're just running through it. It looks painful to watch. Now is OG Seed wanting to try and cut ahead a little bit more, but Hachiko extended just enough. We see all business, 3 players diving right on top of him, descending back to the spawn room, which OG Seed, unfortunately, looking like they have to reset there for a time being. I mean, there's a little bit of like having to be careful here if you're a Boohoo. You're pushed up pretty much all on your lonesome, but now you've managed to dive back just a little bit more. Rage of Ultron from Slowpo sat onto. They're comfortable for things to play out the way that they are for the time being.
Well, 6 is going to open up instead of a Rage of Ultron of their own. Well, this is going to be answering back with one themselves. And Slowpo has already been able to find the inn. Eternal Bond got copied from Snust's God of Mischief. And all business just use it as the red carpet right into the entirety of OG Seed's team.
Having 4 ultimates still to use, using a God of Mischief and a Rage of Ultron still winning the fight seems like a pretty good trade when you look at what else they have available. Nevertheless, OG Seed, Greedy Nils, having that Soul Resurgence, but it feels like it needs to be used alongside something to really get the most out of the healing, to get the most out of the damage, and Tuzi's not going to let this slide. The combination is definitely there with the Final Judgment, but the Supernova, you need to be careful. You've got the Psionic Seduction around, but clearly not hitting exactly where KQ is, who's able to clear up a couple of bodies before Tuzi finally gets a trade. Invisible Boundary put on top of this payload that isn't moving, and the Ivag motor used on the overside now from Hachiko. He gets stunned just as much as the stun came out from him, and now Psionic Seduction used on this attacking side for OGC. They're still getting things moving. All business have done well to buy a bit of time, but I don't think there's going to be much of a connection when it comes to all business fighting on this point.
I'll say goodbye. Stranger's about to get kidnapped. Off the map we go. Have a nice fall, Tootsie.
No, he's not.
He's got the shift. He's got the shift. He's able to utilize the cape of levitation.
Like a Looney Tunes moment.
Cliffside. Two will be able to come back through, and at the same time, Watchmania is also able to organize themselves through that portal. OGC, though, have the Punisher KQ set up on that turret. They've got as well 6 on this Ultron, being able to keep an eye on that left side recontest. Rage of Ultron comes out from Sloper, but it's not enough. It's not even copies with the God of Mischief, Eternal Bond coming on through. Imperative Patch gets transferred over to KQ, who was made vulnerable by that Terror Cave. And still, OGC are denied. They have to wait out the duration of this Eternal Bond before they can look for the picks afterwards.
Silent Seduction used, but it's just Welshmania here. Used to really stall, but it's not going to do all that much. Top Business having to quickly reset. There's a couple of players that went up to try and rush back and help Emma Frost as quickly as possible. They don't want to be caught in no man's land now. The OGC have got things moving. They were very good at being able to do this for the second and third point on the last map, and his final judgment is trying to copy that winning recipe that worked so well for them last time.
Yeah, OGC, because our business really stubbornly tried to fight out A, they lost that positioning on B to try and shut OGC's momentum down. KQ utilizes that final judgment to make sure that they gain even more ground, push all business all the way back around, so that when Tuesday and Slowpoke try and peek into this next fight, it's going to be at an angle where they're either not getting to see the target of focus that they want, or it puts them directly into the crosshairs of KQ on this Punisher. Closer does have that Eternal Bond, potentially giving all business an aggressive play into the back, and it's going to be utilized. The CC immunity keeping the Cloak and Dagger safe for the duration of the Sonic Seduction coming on through from Abuhu, as Lapis will be able to come on through with that Invis boundary, but it's the Eye of Agamotto that you have to worry about if you're all business. Eye right into the back line, and that's one that you probably want to turn a blind eye to, with all of the pixels coming off of the back of it.
Chico's had some fantastic moments on this Doctor Strange. I mean, both of them, this sort of matchup that's been happening with two has been really two players that enjoy this character that would really like to play him as much as possible. So you get to see a little bit of the flex happening there. Halo's still moving, almost going to get to the end of this second checkpoint. And the Doctor Strange holding back this fight. It's still going to be a contest coming in from Wealthmania. In fact, he found himself a pick. The counter-attack is good. Just over a minute left for OGC to get things going. There's all business holding on in a really nice spot. OGC, not really the biggest ultimates available, but very close to being.
Yeah, they've got Final Judgment. The problem for them is that they don't have good strategist ultimates to keep the Punisher alive through it. It's potentially going to have to be a combination of Rage of Ultron and Soul Resurgence, as Welshmania with the Freedom Charges got all of the confidence, the ultimate to bail him out if he overcommits into this backline. He's just going to play Disruption to make sure that the Final Judgment doesn't get the pocket that OGC are looking to set it up with. Comes the Soul Resurgence. There's the Rage of Ultron over the top. All business with the Loki copies and the Regen Domain keep themselves alive through it. Freedom Charge too. All of the players stacked on top of it gonna be receiving that healing from that Captain America as OGC get corralled into a small room against the Psionic Seduction. They've lost all momentum.
20 seconds left now for OGC to keep things trucking on. 2-2, a full charge on the left click is just burning through people, but actually the picks are coming on the other side. It's a Boohoo that's found these picks and openings. Welshmania, one of the main reasons why everything has stalled over on this point is forcing OGC to use some of these bigger ultimates. Psionic Seduction and a Boohoo following up to get another 2K. That should be enough to get things going into point 3, but all of the time whittled down for all business.
Is it going to be enough? 1 minute and 20 seconds left to be able to push through C. They don't have great snowball momentum either. It's going to be really on the shoulders of Hachiko. If you can find a brilliant Eye of Agamotto to open up this fight, then OGC would have a good chance, but they've got to make that moves and soon. Tuzi and Slowpoke are going to be able to just pressure out the Strange before the Eye of Agamotto can have it set up. And now it's going to be so much harder to find the connection of that CC into the backline. As Tuzi with the Supernova takes out all of the momentum. All business want to remove all of the space the attacker side have to play around with. Yet again, we see the combination. No Punisher, no Final Judgment for Eternal Bond to pocket. Instead is used to make sure that Supernova gets the follow-up it requires.
OGC now just sitting, resetting, looking at what they have available to them. Agamotto's are plenty of being a cool thing to look at, and the Rage of Ultrons on either side. KQ taking Slowpoke out of the sky with the help of the Maelstrom from Hachiko is really allowing OG to take some spade. This region domain, fantastic actually, but it might have pulled All Business into fight in a close proximity to where the Eye of Agamotto is coming from. So Resurgence from Greedy Nils going to keep people topped up as KQ found himself another final judgment. That alongside his teammates' invisible boundary means that this can keep pushing forward. All Business using everything that they have, all of the resources, the ultimates, just top decking them to keep themselves going on this engagement. It's really everything going for them, and now 2-2 finding that elimination to bring the numbers in advantage to All Business. It was looking like OGC now that in overtime they could get things just moving a little bit more onto this third checkpoint, and with Greedy Nils, as I keep talking, they're able to bounce back, and maybe nothing's moving at this point, but everybody is fighting for this final chance for OG Seed.
Psionic Seduction from Abuhu. Rage of Ultron and Solar Resurgence going to be up for Greedy Nils, but where's the final judgment? Where's the follow-up damage? It's going to have to be up to the Punisher and this Ultron to find the picks that OGC desperately require. Tuzi with the Supernova is going to be able to blanket out the payload entirely. We start things off yet again with the Eternal Bond, but it's taken down. Closer, the heal gets blitzed through by the Ultron, damage boosted off of Greedy, and it's going to be the Supernova now for All Business. Without the Eternal Bond, they don't have the sustain to keep themselves on that point. They've got to just tap on it one by one. KQ's building up the final judgment. Xenos already burned the regeneration domain. He's got the God of Mischief though. He goes for the copy against the Eternal Bond. Psionic Seduction comes on through from 2, trying to pull everyone from OG Seed out of their invis boundary. Final judgment. The CC immunity will be able to get free. The Adder ultimate. The Eye of Agamotto gets free. The follow-up is there. Tuzi's trying to find the trades. They've been able to take KQ and the Punisher down. The respawns are in favor of All Business. What's the damage that OGC turns to next? KQ's even coming back in on the Spider-Man, but he's not going to be able to swing in on time.
Oh, OG Seed really pushing the boundaries of the time available to them. But they made a good amount of progression with no time available to them at all. And for All Business, it's a decent bar to try and hit now that they go onto their attacking side. I would say for both of these squads, like, maybe it's the nascency, the greenness of OG Seed, excuse the pun, with just how like young these players are, and All Business just not able to put in the hours that they were able to do previously because life's got in the way. But for both of these teams, where it matters, their intuition, their team play, when they don't have strategies to rely on, is stellar. Some of these late team fights really show you that these guys mean business.
Yeah, I mean, Xenos coming on through with some insane Loki plays. He's able to come on through with the God of Mischief right at the opening fight on C, where Hachiko comes in with an Eye of Agamotto. Closer almost goes down, but the God of Mischief copy is able to keep him up, and then Closer immediately trades it off, bailing out his Loki with a huge Dark Teleportation to make sure that the backline is able to disengage safely without stagger picks coming through against them. They're even actually able to throw a Veil of Light Force, the 15% healing boost, over towards Tuzi's Torch at the same time to make sure that the frontline core just doesn't get to take any space. And just plays like that, allowing them to just hold their position, to not let OG Seed start running away with momentum every single time it looked like they had an in. On that last point of Yggdrasil allowed All Business to stop the payload permanently, and now a win condition has been set. Can All Business push the payload to that point? We will have to see. They're going to try and do it off of the back of Tuzi on the Punisher. Slowpoke over towards that Ultron too, trying to get a little bit of a better pocket as Hachiko's already been stunned out. Welshmania in the background manages to bounce the projectile of sedation directly back into Greedy, and the Captain America has put so much space for his team.
It required a couple of bodies to go in and make sure the Greedy Nils didn't go down there. Welshmania not being the front line, but just being the dive. He's been so irritating, and it just means that more resources, more focused on the back line, more so than the front line of All Business as they're trucking things along. Welshmania does go a little bit low. Hachiko, the main tank, the vanguard of OG Seed, dropping, which should open the doors a little bit more for All Business to keep this progression going. And the ultimate's out too. Rage of Ultron being stacked up with the God of Mischief isn't going to matter too much. It's almost like the cherry on top of the cake. And now with Tuzi with a final judgment, judgment if he can keep this springboarding, especially if Xenos is just going to get free as the cloak with the right click, cutting on through. OG Seed now wanted to contest, but how do you on earth do this?
Well, potentially over the final judgment. They've got it, but all business have the actual eternal bond, and they've got a final judgment of their own. Tuesday rips, shreds, his health bar barely falls. The amount of pocket on this Punisher is absolutely perfect from the side of all business. They had a win condition, and it's just another 9-5 for them. Point A picks on up in such a speedy fashion. They've got so much time. They can forge ahead, remove this first corner from the possession of the defense. And Welshmania is already getting into position, not to find picks, but to disrupt, to break apart OG Seed's backline so that they're forced to turn their attention over towards the Captain America, which then allows so much room for Tuzi to do whatever he wants.
Ultimate rotations have been good. It's actually going to be the silent seduction from the defensive side of OGC that's going to start off this engagement. And there's the Eye of Agamotto connecting onto Free again from Hachiko. He's been so consistent with them, but the follow-up isn't quite there. In fact, all business have been able to get more eliminations off the back of the Doctor Strange ults in comparison. Xenos just adding up the pressure even more. OGC throwing literally whatever they have ultimate-wise. Now the invisible boundary to just keep people going, but Slowpo's cutting through them. Closar's doing the same. Tuzi's having a go as well with a nice 2K. And for OG Seed, having to hold on for 4 minutes is going to be hard enough, but there's going to be extra time allocated for all business if they get to the second checkpoint.
Final judgment, God of Mischief, that's going to be copying an Eternal Bond for sure. If they even get the opportunity to get the bodies onto the point, Welshmania yet again is going to just look for his opportunity, dive into the backline, disrupt any follow-up on the pocket that could come out for KQ, so that all business win the Punisher off instead, and indeed there it goes. KQ gets taken down, all business's Punisher, the better, and unfortunately for OG Seed, now they're down their major win condition, he's got to swap over to the Torch instead of the Punisher, just to potentially have things like Pyro Prison to try and drain away the momentum that all business are going to have, as they've got 4.5 minutes, nearly the entirety of C to be able to push through. But it feels like with how fast they picked up both A and B, this team is unstoppable right now.
Thought Welshmania might consider switching over, but honestly, I think this Captain America has done the world of good to create space for the DPS line. Slowpo not too far away from having that Rage of Ultron, and that combined with some of these other support ultimates, even the offensive ones, has been really nice. Tuzi, just off the back of this Eternal Bond, is able to keep things swinging, and it just feels like the all business kill feed is just lighting up with OG Seed names. It's all blue. And there's now, what, like less than 20 meters difference between the two squads? Welshmania trying to cut things off, and it's made it incredibly uncomfortable for OGC to try and contest.
3D's over to the rocket, so at least Hachiko will be brought back by the BRB station. That's this with the Invis boundary trying to buy time. KQ even over towards that Psylocke, potentially wanting to take Slowpo in the air down. The final judgment is the thing that you have to contest, and it feels like the final nail in the coffin. And unfortunately, OG Seed have nothing to stand up to the power of the Punisher. It's just another day, another workplace for Frank Castle, and all business will be able to walk away with Yggdrasil in such a dominant fashion.
It was close enough in the end for OG Seed, and whilst it's sort of disappointing to go out this way, there is an element of like there's premise, I think, for this team to go on and do some good stuff. All business, at least with a top 8 finish, continuing on with the form that they had in the championship, showing that they aren't just this one-trick pony that's only going to show up once and never again. They mean business, and even with the meta changing, a team that is only able to practice a couple of hours a night in comparison to a fair few hours from a lot of other teams, showing that they're still like this old dog can still do new tricks.
All business, what a performance it was too. They had some amazing plays coming out. Slowpo on this Ultron with the Rage of Ultron, making sure that OGC found no value, but it really was just the pocket puncher difference coming on through for their attacker side. Like, Welshmania was doing so much. Hachiko, like you pointed out, had some amazing Eye of Agamottos, but there was just no follow-up. That never could be, because Welshmania was keeping OGC just split 50-50. Aya Bagamoto catches too, but everyone on OG Seed's side is just turning around having to deal with the Captain America. And there's no bodies, there's no follow-up, there's no damage. So when we swing into the part that follows after the Eye of Agamotto, suddenly that Strange is behind enemy lines next to a pocketed Punisher and a Loki and a Cloak and Dagger who have access to all of their resources and just immediately see you right back to your respawn.
If you were to give an MVP for All Business, who would you be looking at?
See, this is so tricky because Tuzi was the one coming through with the picks, right? Tuzi was the one with the picks. Tuzi's final judgments were the things that allowed All Business to come on through with such an insanely fast time bank onto Yggdrasil path. But every single person on that team, it was a full 6-man job to make sure that Tuzi found that space, whether it was Welsh Mania making sure that the Punisher was never contested in the setup phase, whether it was his backline making sure that he always had regeneration domain, that he always was receiving Veil of Light Force from his Cloak and Dagger, that when they tried to go after the Punisher in terms of burst damages, Dagger Dome came out, Eternal Bond came out. He had 2 Eternal Bond cooldowns on rotation from the actual Cloak and Dagger, from the Loki copying, and like so much was just done to make sure that he had the space. Even Slowpoke going over to the Ultron away from a duelist role so that he could give Imperative Patch and Rage of Ultron to make sure that there was never any value, never any space that OGC were able to remove from the side of All Business and turn against the Punisher. Like, Tuzi, mechanically, a beast of a player, but All Business together as a hive mind, being able to put Tuzi into those positions to find those picks, an unstoppable team.
Yeah, amazingly put. Like, it's a team that is showing a lot of surprises, I think, so far, and really as well, the mental resilience, I think, to double down on the Loki pick, because it didn't work on Halls of Dajalia, and it felt that they didn't really get that much out of it. But to be able to go, no, we're sticking to our guns, like this is the way that we want to approach it, it really seemed to make the difference on Yggdrasil's path, and naturally so. I don't need to tell people, like, Loki is a good character, and we all know exactly why, but especially when teams have got very used to specifically focusing on people, especially in this case Tuzi, that other players can go, okay, I can be on my main character, on my main role, and I can shine. And I think that's what Xenos did an exceptional job of, I think.
Yeah, and it also helped as well that they removed Cloak and Dagger from the other side. So every single time it went down to a Punisher versus Punisher, Tuzi had the better breakpoint. As we're going to have a look and see how that has impacted our bracket, as we now know that it's going to be All Business versus Low 9 in that lower bracket. Both of those two teams with their wins today able to continue, and both of these two teams actually having to fight through a pretty sluggish last minute couple of free mappers coming on through. So it'll be interesting, especially when we get to the interview room, to talk to All Business and see what exactly goes in to keeping a Punisher alive in the current pocket meta.
Yeah, and like tomorrow's game as well, it's a little bit of that kind of seeding thing for groups. And let's say if Virtus.pro actually are able to turn things around and top their group, it's basically who's going to avoid playing Virtus.pro in their first game. Like, there's a lot of teams to be scared of for sure, but you know, the higher seed you can get, the better potential side of the bracket that you can work for playoffs. So there's still plenty to play for these games, but both of these teams, for Low 9 and for All Business, can breathe a sigh of relief after today that they've at least made it into next week, into stage 2 if things stay the same, and honestly have done a good job in doing that. We have Xenos actually for the interview as well, so you know, I think we've sort of given him the unofficial MVP for this one, Moxie, so it's nice to be able to talk to him. First and foremost, Xenos, congratulations for making it to playoffs, showing that like a 3rd place finish after championship going into this event. You must be pleased to show that you are like considered like a legitimate team and that people should really put some respect onto you guys, right?
Yes, we're happy we won this. We were really practicing a lot this week, and after the second game we were like a bit nervous, I think, but then at the end we all did our best and it worked out.
So did the game plan change at all? Because something that we really weren't expecting was the fact that Tuzi's Psylocke managed to make it through for the first time, actually, the pick and ban stage. Were you guys going into today expecting the Psylocke to be taken out?
we were expecting it to be taken out, and that's why we've practiced a lot with playing without it, with the Loki and Punisher and Torch and stuff like that. In the second game, we kind of didn't do the last ban that we did in scrims, and I don't know, I think we got nervous when we like the tournament time, and in the last game we did what we wanted to do in scrims, and it worked out well.
What was the final ban that you did on Halls of Jajalia? I'm
we banned the Wolverine, which we hadn't banned at all in scrims. I think we just got too scared there for our Groot because we were planning to play Groot.
And I think for this map, the final one, you went for the Cloak and Dagger, right? So you put a lot of stock onto you like playing Loki. The third map showed exactly why, right? Like it was just seemed to be a lot of really good ultimates, a lot of regen domains, just being irritating as per usual from a Loki player. What wasn't working on Halls of Dajalia? Because OGC had a really like good attacking side. You both put up really good attacking sides, full stop, but they just managed to push it literally over the line.
Yeah, I think we were losing the old fights. They were winning with the Cloak and Punisher ults, while we weren't really getting as much value from it. And at the start of the round, I got picked off, for example, on the first attack they did, and they got like an instant point cap. Then they just rolled us over on the second point, and we finally stabilized. But yeah, it was mostly the old fights, I believe.
So, as a strategist player, you actually get like sort of the first-person POV into having to keep up a Punisher through a Final Judgment, because it feels like the meta a lot of the time is coming down to which team gets more value with the Punisher ultimate. How exactly does the team go about coordinating Final Judgments in such high-pressure situations?
Well, we make sure, obviously, we have something to protect the Punisher, like a support ult, for example, and then both of the supports also protect him, like heal him the only basically, and like try to keep him up because he is our win condition. He's what we want to carry us to the victory. Yeah, and the tanks shield him. Like everyone is playing bodyguard for him.
I mean, it's probably a good strategy, I suppose, to keep people alive that way. But I did think for the final question, we haven't seen that much of you guys in like third-party tournaments or other stuff since the championship. Like, what do we sort of know about you guys? Because I spoke to a couple of you today briefly, and it seems to be like you all know each other previously from another game, that some of you have like jobs and sort of like real lives, that you've had like esports careers in the past, and now you're sort of almost playing for fun. Like, what does it mean, I suppose? Because you aren't able to practice as much as the other teams, right? That you've only able to put in a certain amount of like hours. This is like a really good sign for the future for this team, right? Showing that even with like the less time to put into it, that you're still putting up really good numbers.
Yes, we only really play in the evenings mostly because we are busy with uni, with jobs and stuff like that during the day. But we have been a team since the start of this game, basically. And even before that, most of us knew each other because we played together in a game called Paladins, which is also a hero shooter, as a team. And we're pretty good at playing together, I think. We have like this team play down, and we're all kind of happy that we got to play in a similar game now and that it's working out well. Then we picked up Torzi, who we didn't know before, and he's doing God's work on some of these champions, so...
Yeah, I mean, we're all really excited to see more of you for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's nice to have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too.